to jump into the 2016 presidential race is growing louder, but according to one political insider, it might be too little, too late. Here is what former Hillary Clinton chief presidential campaign strategist Mark Penn told Maria yesterday.
If Joe Biden was going to get into the race, last week was his chance, and he decided to give Hillary Clinton a free debate, and I think it's a lot tougher for him to get in today. I'd say 2-1, he does not get in.
Aha. So as Biden missed his chance to become the next president, I want to bring in Goodstein and Associates Principal Richard Goodstein and former Bush-Cheney presidential campaign advisor Terry Holt. All right, Terry, I'll start with you first. Is it too little too late for Joe Biden?
I don't think so, but certainly the window is closing. It would have been weird to have Joe Biden announce just so that he could be on a CNN debate. I don't think that when you develop a strategy, you start with your launch press event and then work backwards. I think he's got a lot more on his plate to think about than just whether or not he was going to be on that debate. But he certainly didn't help himself by staying out too long and now missing filing deadlines for a lot of states. So I really don't look for Joe Biden to be in the field for the Democrats in the primaries and caucuses next year.
Richard, Terry makes a great point about the filing dates. A lot of people talking about it. Technically, it's just getting a little bit too late to get into this race. Do you see him still getting in?
I don't, and I haven't for a while. When I said this last week on your air, Dagen made fun of me a little bit because I have felt
she never
for the longest.
Would do that.
I know. I'm sorry. It must have been somebody, pretending to be her.
No, Richard, I'm putting my glasses on. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Listen, you look great with those glasses. Incidentally, keep them on. I love that. So look. Here's the thing. I think Joe Biden has played this perfectly in this regard. The longer he kind of holds out the notion that he will be a candidate, the more his influence is kind of on the rise. He's getting all this love from people in his travels. Joe, run Joe. And that's a good feeling. And he needed that, obviously, with the death of his son. But the fact of the matter is, when you're grieving, if that was really the reason that was keeping him out, some debate is not going to make you go from grieving to overcoming that. That's a long process. So I have felt, indeed, I have bets with some of Fox contributors going back weeks that Biden was not going to get in. The only scenario I see him getting in is late, way after some of these filing deadlines coming up, is that somehow or other Hillary runs into a snag, which I think is now rather improbable. Then he gets in, and by having publicly toyed with the idea, the Sanders people won't feel that he's being that he's bigfooting Bernie Sanders. So I'm looking at this maybe as a January, February play, only if somehow the bottom drops out from under Hillary, and I think that's quite unlikely.
Richard,
and then looking at a brokered convention, because he's going to have to win some other way besides being on the ballot in a lot of states.
Well, I mean, Terry, what about the notion, though, that he was standing by while Hillary performed in the debate, and in case she had a miserable, horrible night, he was ready to jump in. I mean, that theory does exist.
Yeah, again, it's a cart before the horse kind of problem. I mean, if all of your eggs are in the one basket of beating her in this debate, then you're fatally flawed from the beginning. And think about the expectations. If he decided on Friday to be a candidate and then rushed to this debate, everybody would have been looking for Joe Biden, to throw a haymaker and knock her out. And he wasn't going to be able to do that. I think that he probably would have maybe gotten a little bit of initial attention,
right, but
that's not enough to win.
Richard, just because it's fun, I'm going to pit you against Dagen with this one. Ben Carson, of course, he's surging in the polls right now.
Yes.
He reportedly brought in $20 million in the third quarter, and he's going to use that money to expand his campaign. Will that give him a leg up over Donald Trump? Because the trend for Dr. Carson is pretty positive right now as far as fundraising and the polling is concerned.
So I think Ben Carson is defying conventional wisdom across the political spectrum. I would say on the Democratic side, every Democrat I know would love the idea of having Hillary Clinton run against Ben Carson, who, if you didn't know, he was a pediatric neurosurgeon of great renown, comes close to being like the village idiot when he talks about guns and Muslims and all these issues. Do you have a CEO, incidentally, that comes on your air? Have you know of one who says positive things about Ben Carson, who likes the idea of Ben Carson being president of the United States? Is there a person on Wall Street who thinks that would be positive for the United States? I doubt it. And so I think Trump at least he doesn't have many CEOs supporting him, but they can understand, they could imagine him calling the shots. Ben Carson,
right.
no.
Dagen
and I think
fun.
ultimately coming. Yeah.
Richard, you might need CEOs and folks on Wall Street to help you raise money, but you don't need a lot of their backing to win, certainly, the Republican nomination. But to that point, with the money that he's raised, his super PAC only raised a few $1 million in the third quarter, I think. Does he have enough to really get past those first two states?
He'll keep coming in. The fact is, if he does well in Iowa, which with all the evangelicals he could, frankly, I think that's going to be a tug of war between him and Ted Cruz in Iowa for the evangelicals. But if he somehow gets past that and does well in New Hampshire, the money, believe me, will come in. Although God knows from where, but obviously $20 million is not chicken feed, right? He's getting it from somewhere, and presumably the more he picks up a head of steam.
Mike Murphy's been way too quiet.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, Donald Trump, we hear all the time saying that he's going to be financing his own campaign. At what point, when he has been, is he going to have to at some point start making those phone calls, get a team to start gathering money for him if he's going to continue?
All right, I'll leave that last word to Terry.
There's a lot of fundamentals inside of this $20 million number. First of all, he raised it in his campaign, and these are smaller dollar donors than a lot of these other folks who have a lot of big donors. But I think there's a lot of real questions about, blank spots in Ben Carson's profile, what he's going to be as president. This $20 million could go a long way in introducing him to a broader group of the American people. And I think this is a candidate where $20 million helps a lot.
All right. Well,
I can answer the Trump thing, though, by the way. And they
final word.
Yeah, they can disagree with me.
There's some candidates, it doesn't matter how much money they have, it's not going to help them.
Money
They're either
always
going to be
helps, right, Dagen?
accepted or not.
Trump can self-finance until maybe he gets the nomination, then he would take party money. But right now, he's only spending money on literally the jet. It's about $10,000 or $11,000 an hour, jet fuel and crew, and he's reimbursing the campaign for that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I never got with I haven't spent anything on this campaign. I'm thinking jet fuel prices are not cheap.
All right. Yeah, he spent about $500,000 in the second quarter.
All right, Richard, Terry, thank you. Great conversation.
Thank you, Sandra.
One everybody's having at home these days, I guess. All right, well.